It's great to see you.
Charlie, it's great to see you. I'm 91. I couldn't be in better health. It's a little discouraging to me that my partner in business life, everything else, Charlie Munger, is 98.
You're still going strong?
I'm still the kid.
You have a successor in place?
We have a successor in place, but he's not warming up.
You're not ready to
I'm
go.
still in overtime, but I'm out there.
Choosing who you work with.
It's everything. I mean, I write a little bit about the annual report, but the choosing what you do and who you do it with. You're gonna, if you're like me, you're gonna spend 70 years or something. My assistant hasn't worked the whole time with me, but she went to work for Berkshire when she was 17, and she still looks 17, and now she'll be with us 50 years at Berkshire, and they know me forward and backwards, and they accept my eccentricities. They help me.
What would they be?
But I would say this: if you take Mark Millard, I walk in the morning, or I call him first, and I tell him exactly. I've already done it for today. I tell him exactly what I want to do, and he does it all day. And some days, a good many days, he moves billions of dollars, purchases and sales. He takes care of the whole thing.
When do you make those decisions?
I think all the time. I'm on the clock at Berkshire all the time. Well, a typical day is I get up usually at a few minutes before 7, so I can catch it's the 7 o'clock news and network news in Omaha, and so I get up a few minutes before that, and sometimes I turn on the network news. I always turn on CNBC, and I look at what prices are doing and what's happening in Europe and what's happening in Japan, and I then about the market opens our time, 8:30. Although we're doing maybe things in Japan or Germany too, but and I call Mark at 8 with the market opening at 8:30, and I tell him exactly what to do for the day, and I probably won't change it during the day, and it's usually a percentage of something. I will say buy or sell X percent of the trading volume, and I'll give him a list of things. If there's a limit of price, I'd give him the price, and then he does it all day, and I don't need to check with him. And he sometimes does billions of dollars worth of business. He buys the treasury bills, which we, in the last couple of years,
have a bunch of.
We probably bought $5 billion every Monday. We might be the biggest buyer, and just week after week after week after week. In 1942, 80 years ago, I took $114.75 every penny I'd saved, and I bought 3 shares of City Service Preferred. And City Service is a pretty well-known name now and then. In fact, in 1920, City Service, I think, was the 4th largest company in the United States in terms of number of shareholders. It was a big company, and so it had a preferred stock that was selling at 38. I really had read every book in the Omaha Public Library that was on the stock market.
By 11?
By 11, I'll guarantee you, and some of them twice. I started out reading the ones in my dad's office, and I just loved to read. I mean, I read other things too, but I knew more when I was 11 than I know now. I mean, in terms of the actual mechanics of the stock. I mean, I don't know what happens when I put an order in now. I mean, it gets in the machinery of the way orders are executed now. I would know if I sat and worked in in a trading room for a day or two. But I don't really know the mechanics as well of what happens when an order is processed today as I did when I was 11.
What is it you enjoyed the most about it? Because
Charlie,
you don't pick stocks, you pick companies.
Yeah, but when I was 11, I picked stocks. I had the whole wrong idea. I was interested in watching stocks, and I thought stocks were things that went up and down, and I charted them. I read books on technical analysis. I read Edwards and McGee. I think that was the classic then. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I read that whole thing over and over again. I read Garfield, Drew, I read everything. And I thought the first 8 years, I thought the important thing was to predict what a stock would do and predict the stock market. And then I read Ben Graham, when I was 19 or 20. And I realized that I was doing it exactly the wrong way. But it didn't hurt that I had that background and everything. And I rejiggered my mind when I read the book, The Intelligent Investor. And from that point, I never bought another stock. I bought businesses that happened to be publicly traded. But I became an owner of a business. And I did not care whether a stock went up or down the next day or the next week or the next month or the next year. And I didn't have any idea what it would do. I didn't know what the stock market would do, but I knew businesses. I knew something.
I've asked people about your genius, whatever we describe it.
No, I'm a bright guy who's terribly interested in what he does. So I've spent a lifetime doing it, and I've surrounded myself with people that bring out the best in me. And you don't need to be a genius in what I do. That's the good thing about it. If I went into physics or a whole lot of other subjects, I'd be an also-ran. But I am in a game that you don't need. You probably need 120 points of IQ, but 170 doesn't do any better than 120. It may do worse, probably do worse, but you don't really need brains.
What do you need?
You need the right orientation. 90% of the people, I'm pulling a figure out of the air, but 90% of the people that buy stocks don't think of them the right way. They think about something that they hope goes up next week. And they think about the market as something they hope goes up. And if it's down, they feel worse. I feel better.
And you think about?
Pardon me?
And what do you think about?
I think about what the company's going to be worth 10 or 20 years from now. And I hope it goes down when I buy it because I'll buy more.
Do you have a competitive spirit? Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Well, but you got to be careful about what you compete in. Good thing I don't have a competitive spirit in chess or or football or anything like that. No, I'm an observer there. I enjoy watching things like that, but I try to keep my competitive spirit in a game where I can win.
Do you have a killer instinct?
Nah, not exactly. I've got. I wouldn't call it a killer instinct, but I do know this. When I want to do something, I always want to do it big.
What does that mean?
I put my whole net worth in City Service Preferred.
$120.
$114.75. And I put my whole net worth in, and I've never, since that day, and March 11th, 1942, I have never had less than 80% of my money in American business. You can call them stocks.
Or equities.
But I see them as American business. I've owned a piece of American business for at least 80% at all times. And, I don't want to own anything else. I want to own a home and things my family wants and all that. But owning 5 homes doesn't mean anything to me because I'm going to be happy in one home, and there's a certain amount of things that go wrong with everything. And if I got 2 homes, I know I've got more problems and I don't have more happiness.
What brings you the happiness?
Oh, that I would have to honestly say that what makes me happiest is what I'm doing. You know,
Allocating
I
capital.
enjoy two things about it. One, I know I'll win over time. That doesn't mean I'll beat everybody else or anything like that. But I'm in a game that's very, very, very easy if you have the right lessons in your mind about what you're buying. I'm not buying stocks. I'm buying pieces of overwhelmingly American business. And I'm happy when that's when I'm doing it. I'm happy when stocks are going down. I'm happier when stocks are going down because I can buy more of them with the same amount of money. I'd be happy if I was a farmer. I'd want farmland to go down so I could buy more acreage. You know, if I was, I mean, it just makes sense. And I'll tell you the second thing I really like. I like being trusted by people, and you know, I would rather do what I do with partners than do it sitting in a room myself, even though I might make more money that way.
You like the idea that people are trusting you with their savings.
Yeah, they just say, "Look, I've saved money. I don't know what to do with it, and
I trust you."
And they give it to me, and they don't. Most of them give it to me. I mean, certainly in the original days, but even now to an unusual degree, give it to me with the idea that it's for the lifetime. And then most of them, I mean, they've done this a long time ago. Most of them give it away when they get through. They never quit saving. I mean, and of course, I'm sort of their savings machine.
They save it and then give it to you.
Yeah, and then they say, keep it and just keep building it. And they don't do it with the idea they're going to retire when they're 65 and then build great castles or anything like that. They just are basically, a few do. I mean, a few spend some money later on. But overwhelmingly, if they've been saving when they were 25 and saved a little money, gave it to me, they're still saving. There were 11 doctors that we met at a hilltop house. There was one friend of mine named Bill Angle, and he was trying to get these other doctors to join with me. So I don't know what it was, 1958 or 9. I invited 12 doctors to this dinner at the hilltop house, and he had me come. And he basically said, "This is my friend Warren, and if you got any brains, you'll give him some money." And so we spent the evening, and these guys were all probably in their low 30s. And 11 of the 12 put in $10,000 each. The 12th said to Bill, he said, "Well, what happens if we lose our money?" And my friend Bill, never forget it, he said, "Well, dummy," he says, "we'll form another partnership." That was the guy that didn't invest. He got reminded of this by the other 11 for the rest of his life. And those people stuck with me. And one of them died in the last year. It's a friend of mine till the end, at 101. And his name was Stan Truls. And he came from a little town, about 300 people near Omaha. And he became an ophthalmologist and a super wonderful guy in every way. I mean, he helped all his fellow doctors, and you couldn't find a guy in Stan. But 2 of the other 11, 2 of them are still alive. And the money and the amount of money, I mean, they haven't built, you know, they could have done anything. I mean, they could have lived bigger than anybody in Nebraska, but they went with the lives they liked. And
so have you.
Yeah.
So have you.
Yeah.
You live in the same house you've lived in for...
I've lived in the same house. I bought it in 1958. So 63 or 64 years. Quarter of the life of the country. I've lived a quarter of the life of the country in one house. And I like being 5 minutes from the office, too. I mean, just think if I'd had a 35-minute commute. I've gone to the same office now since January of 62. So it's been 60 years. And let's say I save 30 minutes every day in commute, you know, each way. we have two fellows in the office that each, they manage a total about $30 billion between them, Ted Weschler and Todd Combs.
Two people you chose.
They've been with us for about 10 years each. They have total authority over the money they invest. They're just as independent in buying things as I am. I mean, if they decide to buy something in a country I've never heard of in the stock, I mean, they don't ask me. I mean, they don't.
But are you saying that maybe they were decided to?
Well, I've actually
investment in Activision.
I've actually said precisely is that one of the other fellows decided to buy Activision. Didn't ask me, and it's fine. I mean, but he bought it. He bought about, I think I used a figure of 85%. I think when we double checked it, it was 76 or 7%. But we'll list every day that he bought it and the price he bought it, and the price was reported as wrong by the press, and then it was picked up by a whole bunch of other organizations and printed as wrong. And so millions of people read an incorrect story.
How about Occidental?
Well, Occidental, a week ago, well, a couple of years ago, we financed Occidental.
And had some warrants coming out of that.
Vicky Hollow, who I'd never met before. And I got a call on a Friday and Bank of America saying that Occidental was going to need some money to buy Anadarko. And I think it was known then they were in competition with Chevron. And would I meet with them? Because they needed a lot of money fast. And I said, sure, how about tomorrow? And went back and forth. They came up Sunday instead of Friday. And we met at 10 o'clock in my office on a Sunday. And I said, we'll give you $10 billion under these circumstances. But we'll do it. We'll do it tomorrow. And that's not Wall Street, but that's Berkshire. And so, and they knew I was good for it. And so we made a deal. Monday night, the next day, night, I told our guys, you work all night. Cravath works all night for them. And we get this thing done on Tuesday.
You look at the United States.
United States economy, and it's very easy to look at the statistics on it. I mean, more people, a greater percentage of the American population is wealthy now, or having more income now than they've ever had. And if you look at whether Bank of America can give you their average deposit, I mean, you just look at the wealth that's out there, and that doesn't mean everybody's wealthy, but it does mean relative to any other period of time. People have more money now. They get mortgages at lower rates than they've ever gotten. So if they want to buy a house or something,
but is that going to continue? I mean, mortgage rates are raising, as you know.
Yeah,
we were in an inflationary period.
I'm not going to predict interest rates for you. But I'm not
asking you to predict anything about stocks.
But right today, Charlie.
You live in an environment.
Yeah, you live in an environment where the bottom 2% in terms of income in the United States, the bottom 5%, and for sure the top 1%, all live better than John D. Rockefeller was living when I was 6 years old. John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in the world. And today, you can get better medicine, better education, better entertainment, better transportation. You can do everything better than he could. You can, it's astounding. That's in my lifetime that if you wanted to watch a football game, he still had to go there. and I can sit there with this big screen and they keep showing me the replay, and explaining to me what happened and everything. And maybe everybody doesn't have a screen as big as mine, but damn near everybody has a screen or an iPhone or a computer or access to one, and they have access. I mean, when I was born, the dentist didn't use Novocaine. When I went
So
in,
there has been progress, obviously,
in medicine.
and nowhere more than in the United States.
Well, relative to the base, maybe more than, but there's no country that's done what our country's done. If you go back 3 of my lifetimes, you're looking, you've been to Colonial.
You're 91, so.
It's 3 lifetimes. You are looking at less than 1% of the world's population, closer to half of 1%. Half of 1% of the people in the world are sitting in this land. They don't work harder than people in all the rest of the world. In terms of hours of unpleasant labor, everybody's got hours of unpleasant labor in those days practically. They don't come laden with gold, and they are half of 1%. And they work the same hours, they got the same IQs. They may be a little self-selected in terms of enterprise, in terms of going across oceans and things. And fast forward a couple of lifetimes, and they've got 20% plus of all the bounty in the world. That is something that has worked like nothing. Just imagine that. If you'd gone to anybody, the Constitutional Congress in 1789, if you go to any one of the representatives there, and you said, I want to tell you what this place is going to look like, in 3 more of your lifetimes, your great-great-grandchildren, yeah, are going to be flying in the skies. They're going to be watching sports all over the world. They're going to be entertained. Their medicine. They'd have hold you off to a lunatic society.
But at the same time, as you know, and you hear this all the time, 845 billionaires in America.
Yeah.
And they have more wealth than the bottom 60%.
That's true. And that's up to government. Government has a proper place in the capitalism, believe me. And government's the rule maker. But Henry Ford, by 1922 or 3, he was turning out 2 million cars a year. Now, how many could the Ford family use? 30, 40, I don't know. So 2 million people are getting the benefit of what he's doing. And he's getting 30,000, he's getting 50 cars, and he's getting a whole bunch of little claim checks. Just think of it. Everything, when Thomas Edison did all the things he did, he made some money. But we benefit. We're using it.
Yeah.
It belongs to us, and it doesn't. That iPhone that I have, which I'm probably the least capable guy in the world of working with it, but it makes life better.
It is the reason that Apple is the richest company in the world.
Yeah, and you've had Tim Cook on before, and you can hear as a company that a guy invents something, and all kinds of other smart people do the same thing. Apple, I think, sells less than 25% of the smartphones in the world. I know a guy that produces as many as Apple does. But Apple has produced the one that's the most useful to people. It's an aspirational product. Somebody, a lot of people have made cars, but you got a few survivors that made the ones that people like the best. And, we would be selling 16 or 17 million cars a year in this country if we had 50 producers, or whether we got 3. We never used to have.
But here is an interesting fact, as you know. Tesla has more market value than all the other automobile companies combined.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
What does that say?
That shows what America produces.
Elon Musk?
Elon didn't, he's taking on General Motors and Ford and Toyota and all these people who've got all the stuff, and he's got an idea. And he's winning. That's America. I mean, you can't dream it up. I mean, it's astounding. Now, you still need a referee.
And that's the government.
Yeah, sure. And you need a judicial system, and but that comes with government. And we've got the best so far. We've got the best system. We've got a better system than we used to have, and we'll have a better system 50 years from now.
Why are you so sure?
Well, I've seen 91 years of it. I've never seen a period where I didn't believe that.
Well, I mean, clearly your happiness, but it doesn't, you're saying, notwithstanding
it doesn't interfere with anything.
That ages.
I can get on a plane and go anyplace. I can do anything as long as you don't ask me to dance. Or juggle or even remember, who did I meet yesterday?
But in terms of doing the job that you do, allocating capital,
I can actually do that as well as ever.
As ever.
Yeah, that sounds obvious.
But better than that, do you do it today better than you did it 20 years ago?
Yeah, I've got a different set of opportunities.
And that gives you obviously.
Well,
Berkshire is much bigger than it's ever been, and therefore that defines the choices.
The size restricts the kind of things that can have an important effect on what I can do for the people who leave the money with me. So I can't earn the returns on capital with 500, billion or 600, whatever it may be to work with. Like if I do something brilliant, don't count on it, with $5 billion, it's 1% of my net worth. I mean, 1% of the net worth of the people I'm working with. And 1% doesn't move much, So I have to think about big things. And they're limited. I mean, I made money in an entirely different way when I was working with originally $10,000, $9,800 to be exact. And when I started working with other people's money, it was $105,000. And May 5th of 1956, I had $105,100 put into that partnership. And Berkshire is the outgrowth of that. I went to the house that I was renting it for $175 a month the other day. I just come back from New York, and there's a little room. I would say it's about 5 feet by 8 feet, and I'd written on the door because I knew the people that owned it earlier. This is where it all started, May 5th, 1956, and I worked out of that little room for 2 years and moved to the house. And then I got another little room. I worked there for 4 years. And everything I did could double our net worth. That doesn't mean that I could find them all the time. But I mean, there were thousands of possibilities, and I wanted to know every one of them.
And there are not thousands of possibilities now.
Can't possibly be. No, there aren't thousands of possibilities.
Tell me, are there things that you think we ought to be talking about? I'm going to talk about climate in just a moment. Are there things that you think we ought to be talking about?
I mean, I am happy to tell people that the same thing I've told them before, but they'll never get the message, most of them, but a few do, that the most, best thing to do if you want to invest for the long term
is index.
And it's the S&P 500 index.
Right.
And what's happened, of course, is that organizations like to grow. So they set up indexes on different industries, different countries. And as soon as you do that, you're violating basically what Jack Bogle said. He says, you don't know enough to pick the right businesses, which means you don't know enough to pick the right countries, you know enough.
All right, let me get to that. And that's something I want to get to. But we will see a time in which the Chinese economy is bigger than the U.S. economy.
Someday, they got 4 times as many people, and logically, they will grow and grow, and we're the two superpowers.
Are they going to grow as fast as they have been growing?
It's hard to say. No, I don't know the answer to that.
But they've got some issues. They've got issues.
Sure.
They've got issues of.
Yeah. No, I just.
They've got issues of debt. They've got issues of.
Everybody's got issues.
Demographics.
Yeah, everybody's got issues.
Yeah, those kind of issues.
Everybody's got issues.
They've got also issues.
We've had issues throughout the history of the United States.
They've also have issues of the environment and climate. The UN just released a report, and we have heard it, and we constantly hear it. How worried are you about our success in protecting the planet?
Well, the biggest threat, obviously, is nuclear weapons, but it doesn't mean you don't protect against other things. Right. And if there's a 1% chance, even, and I'm not, it's way high, I can't quantify it, but if there's a 1% chance of something causing the world trouble, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, we ought to be working on that too.
Are we doing enough?
We're doing a lot. The problem is, of course, that it requires the whole world to do a lot.
When you look at Tim Cook,
I think he's terrific. It's that simple. I've written the annual report.
Yes,
and he is.
He's a great manager.
He's not only great manager. He's a great human being, but he's a great manager too. He's an incredibly great manager, but he's a great human being.
What do we look for in a great manager?
You look for somebody that has
results.
You look for somebody that has ability, trust, and character.
Ability, trust, character.
Yeah, somebody you can trust. Same thing you want in a spouse. Charlie always says you want to marry somebody better than you are. He says in my case that leaves the whole world practically. But it's the truth. I mean, you always want to be around people who are better than you are. They pull you in the right direction.
What's the chemistry? What's the nature of the relationship between you and Charlie? It's a long relationship.
We met in May of 1959. His father died. He had worked in the same grocery store as I had in 1940. I worked there in 41. And we never met. I didn't know his name. And his dad was, well-known all on, but I just didn't happen to know. I was a kid, and we moved to Washington. And so it was a name
Your dad went to Congress.
I never heard his name until 1959. Or no, I heard the name when I met the day. It was maybe 57 or 58. He came to Omaha in 1959. We met. And it's been, the best relationship, except others I've had, in family and so on. But it's been, he's been the person, along with Tom Murphy and a fellow named Joe Rosenfield, subsequent to my dad, that I didn't want to disappoint. Good to have somebody in your life you don't want to disappoint. It's enormously important. Makes you a better person.
Do you disagree on a lot of things, or?
Well, we've never argued. We've never had an argument. People say, "Well, that's impossible." I'm telling you, we've never had an argument. Yeah,
but you could say, "I believe this," and he says, "I believe this." You just don't argue about it.
Yeah, but we don't even have to say it hardly. We may know where that I would say this or that. Why bring it up?
He, I think, has expressed some concern about index funds.
I support everything Charlie says, but I don't agree with it. I don't mean on that. I mean, it doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, and he doesn't agree with me on everything. And we've never had a problem with that since '59.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
What about him?
Jeff is a friend of mine, but I probably see him personally. I see him once a year, probably. Yeah,
At a
And
con-
I can't recall ever talking to him on the telephone. Maybe I have. I've never sent him an email.
but
I don't know how to send emails.
you know how to get them sent.
Yeah, no, I've got a system, but I don't. I literally don't know how to send an email
You seem to have done okay without knowing.
so far.
But you once said to me, that, I mean, he's one of the smartest businessmen,
Oh, absolutely.
and the proof is in the pudding.
I read his annual reports. I see him once a year. I've usually seen him once a year in Sun Valley. And I enjoy that. And actually, at Sun Valley, at the Allen and Company Conference, we've had a dinner that a few of us had in. And so I've probably had at least 3 or 4 of those.
It's remarkable to see a company which was founded on selling books now as a technological giant.
It couldn't happen, but it did. When Jeff was at McKenzie, I don't know whether they drove cross country from New York to Seattle, but if they'd stopped at Omaha, and they, I didn't know him then. He said, "What do you think of this idea?" Good luck, Jeff.
Yes, but you have told me that he at times would come up to you and have questions if you were making a presentation at a conference.
Yeah, at Sun Valley. Yeah. He's a very, very, very smart guy. And, I think,
Have you achieved pretty much everything that you wanted out of life?
Well, the truth is, yes, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow, too.
Any regrets?
Well, if you look back, you can always say, "I should have done this
and that."
But I'd be nuts if I look back on my life and said, "You haven't been the luckiest guy imaginable." And I will say this, aside from sickness and death, everything I thought was bad at the time has turned out well.
And when you say you've been the luckiest guy, I assume that means community and family, but it also means, in your case, as you have said often, the country that you live in.
Oh, totally. Charlie, if I'd been born any place but the United States, my life would have been totally different. And incidentally, it helped to have the parent I had to. But the United States is essential. It's given me everything.
And your dad was the man you most admired.
Yep.
Why was that?
Well, I never saw him do anything in his life that he didn't believe in. Turned out I didn't agree with him on things later on. I mean, I accepted this.
Sure.
Yeah. When we sat around the dinner table in the 1930s, my dad was the most anti-Roosevelt person you can imagine. So almost had to say something bad about Roosevelt to get dessert, or something. but my sisters and I grew up with that. But that's okay. He didn't. Anything I did, he supported, as long as I was behaving okay. And even when I didn't behave okay, he never gave up.
It came out this week that you are one of the 5 richest people in the world. On that list was ahead of you was Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the man from France, Arnaud. What does that mean to you?
It means I can direct the way a whole lot of money goes just back to society. But what really means something to me is the record of Berkshire. That's what I've done. The money flows out of it, but I paint the painting. The world can bid on it at auction. But that is fun, and it's been fun. It's been way more fun doing it with Charlie as my partner than it would have been alone. It's incomparable.
So the legacy is Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, sure, and it's my friends, and it's all been whatever it is. I've done it.
But
I've got a family. I feel terrific about. I got a business, and I've got millions of people who have trusted me.